Hello and welcome to West Wales. My name's Becca and I'm a hand spinner, knitter and newbie weaver, and you're very welcome to my slightly echoey conservatory here in my little home in Pembrokeshire. Now, today is a craft and chat, and I was trying to do these weekly, but you know, kind of being ill and various things happened, and so it didn't happen weekly. Anyway, trying to get back on track. So what I thought I'd do today was just spin up one little bobbin of Gotland on my lovely trusty vintage Ashford traditional sort of 1980s, mid 80s ish, probably 86, although not always, you can't always 100% date them because obviously people add new bits, but it's probably that sort of era. And yeah, I just thought that would be a fun thing to do. So grab yourself a project, cup of tea, cup of coffee. I'm actually on mug of water today. I didn't want to have a glass in case I knocked it over and got enthusiastic and sort of flipped it on the floor, because I'm in the conservatory. It's got a hard floor, which is why it's quite so echoey. And I've got a great tip about kind of trying to put rugs down and various things to try and absorb the sound. So I have got things hanging up behind the camera. I've got a rug on the floor. So I'm hoping it's not going to be quite as echoey as it is sometimes. Okay, so right, let's go on with some spinning. So if you are on my newsletter, then this week's little sort of challenge or theme or things for you to do was 8 project ideas for this coming bank holiday weekend. And the things I am planning to do for the bank holiday weekend is, well, one of them, I was going to spin outside and was going to record outside. It's quite windy. It's often quite windy. You know, we're on the coast, so quite often it's windy. But in this actually old bucket of bird food, and now not containing bird food, that's going to be really noisy, sorry. Oh, it is some lovely fluffy Gotland. And last June, I think it will be, I had a whole Gotland fleece, and on the channel there is a how I wash it, so I will link that in the description below. And I have just about finished processing it. So this here, in this old, that is, what is that? That is a pillowcase from the charity shop. And in here is all that's left of what needs to be processed. And what I've been doing is I've been combing it and then putting it in this bucket so I can spin it. Now, when my partner and I relocated to West Wales, we downsized considerably, and I did things like get rid of my this is like charades. What am I miming? Turning a thing. Drum carder. Right, you've all been shouting drum carder at me. So got rid of the drum carder, and I just use hand tools. And I said to myself, oh, I'm just going to buy prepared fleece from the mill. I'm not going to actually do my own. And for a long time, I didn't. But last summer, I absolutely couldn't resist, because there's a lady very locally to us. I mean, literally walking distance. And she has Gotlands, and she has Wensleydales, and she has alpacas, and she was selling one of her Gotland fleeces, and so I bought one, and since then I have bought another raw fleece. So I am thinking that maybe I need to actually get a drum carder again. Anyway, so I have been hand carding that, and hand combing it with various kind of slightly makeshift hand tools, actually not proper wool combs. I think that may be on my shopping list as well. Anyway, I digress. So that is what I thought I would spin, and it's beautifully fluffy. So not spinning outside, and you'll have to ignore my very scrappy leader. I always have a scrappy leader. I tell myself I'm going to have these very sensible kind of leaders, and then I never do. So I'm going to spin on my smaller ratio because I want quite a lightweight yarn, and I'm going to do a apply back test in a minute, but I'm just going to get a bit of spinning done and see what it looks like. So I think I still sound a little bit croaky. I had a bug. I mean, it really did only last 48 hours or something like that, but I'm still a little bit croaky. I feel fine though. I'm absolutely fine. And someone did say maybe it was COVID. I don't think it was COVID because I really didn't feel ill enough. That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Ill enough. No, I don't think it was COVID. I think it was just a bug. Okay, so let's just have a look and see how this tension is. Of course, you can't see this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the camera angle. Okay, so that's pretty nice for, let's just break that off. Okay, so I hope you can see that. Now, I actually don't know whether you can see that. I think you can see that, but I think that's a nice amount of twist and tension. Doing my apply back test. So we'll just put that up there and rejoin. And I tend to join down the side. Now, every time I make, and literally every time I make a spinning video, one of the things I get a little bit concerned about is that maybe I'm not being particularly technically correct. And I say this all the time. Yes, I have been spinning for nearly 20 years, but I am quite a sort of, I don't know, lazy slapdash spinner, something like that, I think I would call myself. And I generally don't use a yarn guide. I just sort of do it by eye and by feel. And if I was selling my hand spin, if I was selling my hand spun, I think I would do it slightly differently. I would probably be a little stricter. But as I'm not, it's just for me, then I just, do whatever. So what I'm doing is short forward draw, and for long, it does work pretty well. It's quite difficult to do a long draw on a long wool. I mean, I'm sure it's not impossible, but yeah, this is what I do. This is what I like. And as I say all the time, this is for me. I'm not doing it for anybody else. This is for me. So one of the questions I get asked quite a lot is about yarn consistency. And a lot of yarn consistency is going to be in preparation. So if you've got some well-prepared fibre, you're going to find it much easier to get a consistent spin. And particularly if you are preparing the fibre yourself, then I think it's worth just really kind of working on it and working on it and working on it and kind of getting all those little second cuts out, getting as much of the VM out as you can. And see, I've got a little bobbly bit there. And you can generally pull them out, but don't try and carry on treadling and pull them out. Actually stop treadling and then pull them out. Now the other thing about, I'll go see another one. Another thing about yarn consistency is just practice, honestly. And, 3 most important parts of learning to hand spin: practice, practice, practice. I mean, just keep doing it. 15 minutes a day. And somewhere on the channel there is a video about how to improve your hand spinning. And one of the things I said was that I knew making these videos would improve my hand spinning. And I think it really has. So one of the things you could do is, well, make YouTube videos because they're fun. Or, you know, if you prefer Facebook or Instagram, but actually, even if you don't want to post them, record yourself and look back at what you're doing. And that's really helpful. And yeah, so that would be one of my top tips for improving your hand spinning and improving the consistency of your hand spinning is just record what you're doing, watch yourself back. Now I've got some little bits of VM. There was an awful lot of VM in this fleece, which I did know when I bought it, and it was priced accordingly. Okay, so I've got my next little bit. Why don't you let me know what you're doing? Drop a comment. What you're working on? What are you doing this bank holiday weekend? I am pretty sure that it is Memorial Day in America. In the UK, it is what used to be called Whitsuntide. I don't think they call it that anymore. I think they call it Spring Bank Holiday, probably. Something very nondescript like that. Anyway, yes, so it is a bank holiday on Monday. It's going to be a very busy weekend locally here because in Fishguard they have the folk festival. So there are lots of men with big beards, smoking pipes, wandering around Fishguard, playing fiddles and mandolins and all sorts of things like that. It's a really good fun festival. And we don't go. I mean, although I can appreciate folk music, it is, folk festivals, not really my scene. I was kind of a bit more into guitar indie. So I was sort of Blur and what else? Oh, can't even think now. I was going to say Oasis, but actually I wasn't particularly into Oasis. It was REM, B-52s. So folk music, not really my thing. Okay. So it's just spinning up really nicely. And one of the things I also suggested as a project was a nice lacy shawl for those summer evenings. I am lucky enough to still have two parents who are with us, and they always like to buy me a Christmas present of something useful. And one of the things they quite often do is actually pay for a magazine subscription. Oh, can I say subscription? A magazine subscription. And a couple of years ago, they paid for Landscape magazine. So in the magazine, there's a really nice wrap pattern. And I mean, this is, let's see, when is this from? Oh, Specs. July 2023. And yes, I've had this on my shelf that long. So that is what I am planning to make out of the rest of this Gotland. So it calls for something fairly lightweight. I mean, I would think that this is probably going to end up sort of sock yarn weight. It won't be lace weight. I am not spinning it fine enough for lace weight. But that is, yeah, so that's my plan. So that was another one of my suggestions for things that you could work on this weekend. Now the weld is ready to harvest. So I think my next sort of how-to, or as much as how-to as I ever get on the channel, is going to be dyeing with weld, which I have to tell you, I have never done before. I have really just dyed with weeds before, so weld is another one on the list that I have never dyed with before. Oh, more VM, annoying. I thought I'd got so much of it out, but Apparently not. Yeah, so that's the cunning plan for the next midweek video. I really am trying to have a sort of schedule for these videos, but I'm not very good at doing that. So that is the plan. So right at the start of this video, I started talking about how to get consistent yarn, didn't I? So and I've completely gone off topic. Well, that's par for the course, isn't it? So yes, how else can you get consistent yarn? So yes, fibre prep is very important. Don't have too much fibre in your hand as well. That really does help to kind of, it will help you control your fibre and your drafting triangle. If you're trying to kind of work with great big kind of lumps of fibre, it's going to be quite difficult to control how much fibre is in your drafting triangle. Now, the other really good tip, and somebody will have to tell me who says this, because this is not my tip, this is somebody else's, and I've forgotten their name. Oh, who is it? I can't remember. Anyway, somebody will know. And the tip is count your treadles. So as you draft, sort of how many times are you treadling for how many times are you sort of either pulling forward or backwards. And that's another way to get a consistent yarn. But I think generally what happens is you sort of build up like a muscle memory. And the lady that taught me to spin, Sarah Harris, who still teaches spinning in Clevedon in her shop in North Somerset, and she said to me when I was learning to spin and I was kind of bemoaning the fact that I was getting a very textured, uneven yarn, she sort of said, in a few years' time, you won't be able to get those uneven textured yarns because your hands will just want to spin consistent yarn and you'll have to try really hard to get a textured art yarn. And she was absolutely right. I find it nearly impossible to spin a textured art yarn. Very difficult. So if you are a new spinner and you're sort of thinking, oh, I'll never get this, trust me, you will. It just is a case of doing it a lot. And even if it's just 15 minutes a day, give yourself a little grace. It will click, it will get there. Now, I have tried to teach people to spin in real life. And one of the things I found, and again, this goes back to something Sarah said. So one of the things I found was I couldn't understand how they weren't getting it. Because although I did start off making relatively uneven yarn, because, we all do, it clicked pretty quickly. And I had a couple of friends who wanted to learn to spin. And it didn't click for them. And I just could not understand why they weren't getting it. And I was like, but it's easy. You just, you draft and you treadle, and they just could not get it. And one of the things that Sarah also said was that what made her a good hand spinner is that it did not click for her. It took her a really long time to actually learn to draft. And she said that it really made her a good teacher because she understood what people were going through. So I do quite often think, well, people have suggested maybe I wanted to be a spinning teacher and, kind of have courses that people could come to. And, it crossed my mind. But, and this is a huge but, I don't know how good I would be if people weren't getting it. I mean, I am a very patient person and I probably would persevere, but it just came so naturally to me that I just don't understand when people say they're having a problem, because it's like, it's not that hard, just practice. And I mean, I practiced on the drop spindle, and as you will know if you have been here for any length of time, I am not a spindle spinner. I mean, literally, as soon as I could move on to a wheel, I did, and I barely picked up a drop spindle in 20 years. But it really did teach me how to draft. And so if you're struggling a little bit, go back to your drop spindle for a bit and then go onto your wheel and just see if that helps, because it's about controlling your drafting triangle. And I think it's really easy to kind of get that death grip, you're holding on for dear life. And of course, you won't make a good yarn doing that, because you want a nice light touch, and you want to be working with your wheel. You don't want to work against your wheel. And starting to understand the ratio. So the ratio, when I talk about ratio, I'm talking about, well, on an Ashford, they're here. And I mean, if you've got a cos, I mean, they're in the same place everywhere. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I mean, yeah, your ratio is your gearing system. And if you have got nicely prepared fibre and you've got the right ratio for the yarn that you want to spin, then it shouldn't be a battle. You should be nice and easy. I mean, we all get it wrong. I get it wrong all the time. I'm not God's gift to hand spinning by any means, but I can create a yarn I want to use. And at the end of the day, I think for most of us, that's all we want to do, isn't it? Just have a yarn that is usable. So this yarn I'm spinning, I'm going to spin it 2-ply. You won't be able to see the amount of VM that's dropping out of this. Honestly, I thought I'd prepared this so well, and there's so many little tiny bits of hay that are dropping out onto my apron. Hence why I always wear an apron. And we had a lot of aprons when we finished our business, our food business. So I have lots of blue and white stripy aprons. As much as I am desperate to design myself a new spinning apron, we have so many aprons that I sort of feel that I can't kind of justify having a new one. Oh dear. There you go. It's broken. Never mind. Yeah, I can't justify having a new one until these old ones are a little more worn out. Hence why you will always see me in a blue and white stripy apron. It's not because I've kind of got a thing for blue and white stripy aprons particularly. It's just that's what we've got, so that's what I wear. So I've changed angles again. If you are interested in joining the newsletter, it is absolutely free. I give you a little thank you gift of a breed study form, and I write a weekly newsletter that is a roundup of what's been on the channel. And if I've written a blog post, roundup of that. And then I always try and give you some project ideas or some helpful tips for your hand spinning. And as with all things, I will leave a link in the description below. Well, I'm going to change bobbins and spin up another bobbin and then ply. So I will see you next time, which will be, if you're watching these in order, which hopefully, if it works, it might not work. If it works, then it will be dyeing with weld. So